Hello, and welcome to Hot Takes and Holy Grounds, a podcast hosted by Chalice Christian Church, Disciples of Christ in Gilbert, Arizona. We are so glad that you are with us today to take part in our conversation and to hopefully grow more in our faith journey together in our conversations, but also to invite you all, the listeners, into how it is that we at Chalice think and see in the world. We don't come up with answers in this podcast, but rather we come up with more questions to ask. And so, my name is, just to do an introduction, my name is Reverend Jay Deskins. I'm the pastor of Chalice Christian Church. And with me is Jim Barton, who is a member of Chalice Christian Church. And I'll let him say hi to you all.
Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Jim Barton. I am an attorney by vocation, and I like to style myself as an amateur theologian. And as always, I'm joining Jay in this process. And I guess we should kick it over to our guest. I think we decided this is our first guest, right, Jay?
Yeah,
So
yes. I
the
mean, even though he
Reverend
is a part of
Dr.
Chalice,
Robert Howard. Go. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Jay. I'm sorry.
I was just saying he is a guest, but he's also a member of Chalice.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to break the mold. Um, Bob Howard, I'm a member of Chalice, ordained pastor in the Christian Church Disciples of Christ. I have pastored churches. I'm retired now, been retired almost 3 years, and rejoined Chalice after serving different churches. Also, I am the faith tri-chair for the Poor People's Campaign, the Arizona chapter, the bunch of for the Poor People's Campaign, led by Reverend Dr. William Barber and Reverend Dr. Liz Theoharis, National Poor People's Campaign. We're the Arizona bunch.
Okay.
So, yeah, and I come by my prophetic sensibilities. Honestly, my mother was an immigrant whose family took them out of Germany. Her parents took them out of Germany in the 30s and mid 30s when they saw the writing on the wall. So it's in my DNA.
Yeah. Well, Bob, the reason why we brought you on here today is because over the last few weeks you have been writing, and we published on our church's Substack, substack.chaliceaz.com, for those of you that are interested, um, a letter of protest from uh, the action of war in Venezuela. Um, I, of course, we have to sit here and mince words about, is it an act of war, or is it war itself? So, uh, as a Christian, the way that I see it is anytime that we are pointing guns is an act of war. Uh, that's the way I see any time that we do that. So, I'm just going to call it an act of war. Um, that's the way I'll refer to it. You all can refer to it whatever it is that you all need to refer to it as. But for me, the action in Venezuela is an act of war. But Bob's letter addresses that a little bit more. And so, Bob, I'm going to invite you to, before you read the letter, I'm going to invite
Mhm.
you to talk more about where it is that you got your inspiration for this
Right.
letter, and kind of maybe your thought process on what goes through your head when you're writing something like this.
Okay. I agree with you. A hostile international act,
Mhm.
um, totally just out of the blue. It is,
Hang on, Jim. I'm hearing some really bad feedback.
yeah. Let me try
Okay,
again. Is that
it's
working?
gone. It's
There we
gone.
go.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, it's an act of war. It's an act of undeclared war.
Right.
But the 80 people that died don't care whether it was declared or not.
Right.
Um,
Right.
what kind of went through my head when I heard about it? First, I was shocked but not surprised because there had been a build up toward that. A boycott. I mean, uh, attacking the boats for several months. Those were acts of war, unjustified. So there was certainly preparation leading toward this. Um, when I heard about the bombing and the kidnapping of President Maduro and his wife, I was outraged and just in my gut said, I gotta, just to help me get a handle on what was wrong about this. I wanted to kind of write it out in the form of a protest letter, which then kind of took a life of its own, and I sent it to some friends and to my pastor Jay, just to say this is an outrage. And I brought to bear my training in scripture and theology, and moral theology, just to say what I saw as the theological wrong. There, of course, it broke international law, it broke U.S. law, but I said it broke theological law too. It was an injustice against human beings. And it occurred to me that just kind of the Ten Commandments occurred to me probably because they've been proclaimed as need to have it in every classroom by several state legislatures. And I thought, whoa, this is the antithesis of pretty much every one of those commandments. So I started figuring out how this broke the different commandments, this action. So that's kind of how I came to the point of writing it down. And as any writer knows, anybody who's done some writing helps you figure things out.
Does.
I want to throw in a quick comment at the top because I think I do want to hear your letter, Rob. I think it's worth it to put it sort of out there for listeners. Sadly, this is not the current regime is doing a lot of uniquely horrible things. This is horrible, but not unique.
Right.
We have seen, and I'm a Navy veteran, and I was even during the time when I was when 93 to 98, when everything was allegedly peaceful and quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Things like this were happening, and maybe not the invasion part, but frankly, this is not the first time the United States has gone to South America, disrupted a government. It's not the first time we've arrested, in quotes, the leader of a sovereign nation. And those presidents do not necessarily fall to one party or another, much less only this regime. And so I think I think it's worth flagging that, getting our feet under ourselves and being able to identify evil is something that the church needs to be better at. And this is a great example, and is not unique, sadly.
Yes, unfortunately, South America or Antarctica has the distinction of being the only continent that the U.S. has not tried regime change.
Yeah.
So shall I read it?
Please do.
Yeah, I conceive myself as part of a moral witness, partially because I'm the tri-chair for the Arizona Poor People's Campaign, but also a Christian speaking as a Christian in the name of Christ and Christ followers. So that's how come I didn't go I said we. And this was written within hours of the strike and the kidnapping. We must protest as vigorously as possible the recent illegal act of undeclared war visited upon Venezuela. This act of violence against the sovereign nation of Venezuela is lawless, violating persons, United States laws, international laws, and God's will expressed in the Ten Commandments. It is an illegal and immoral act hurting our human family, our kin. It stands against U.S. law, for Congress was not consulted prior to this action, nor did it issue a declaration of war against Venezuela authorizing this action. It violates international law, disrespecting the integrity of the nation of Venezuela. No matter what opinion the government of the United States may have regarding the Venezuelan government or its leadership, it further fundamentally threatens the international rules-based order that was set up after the Second World War, precisely to prevent countries from just taking over another nation and stealing their resources, thereby endangering world economic and political stability. This unilateral, unprovoked military action shreds both legal frameworks, displaying a contempt for rules guarding humane coexistence of human community in relative justice, peace, and security. More to the point, as an unprovoked act of undeclared war by a nation which certain voices assert was explicitly founded as a Christian nation, this hostile action violates the written law of God expressed in the Ten Commandments, required by several state legislatures to be displayed in every classroom, although the courts have contested that, which is found in Exodus 20. The bombing of Venezuela and kidnapping of their president violates the express will of God in at least the following ways. And then I go through the Ten Commandments and talk about each commandment, the way in which this bombing violates that. So, then God spoke all these words. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. Through these actions and the words uttered later in the morning at his morning news conference, the President of the United States violated this commandment by deifying the United States, its military, its exercise of power over another sovereign state, and indeed himself. You shall not make for yourself an idol, whether in the form of anything that is in heaven above, or that is on earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing children for the iniquity of parents to the third and fourth generation of those who reject me, but showing steadfast love to the 1,000th generation of those who love me and keep my commandments. An idol is a material representation of divinity in opposition to the God of scriptural Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The president has made himself into such an idol, and his actions in person have become the center of value for countless followers, some of whom express support for this illegal action specifically because of who initiated it. You shall not make wrongful use of the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not acquit anyone who misuses his name. Religious nationalism has baptized the nation with a truncated version of Christianity, in which a powerful few, claiming to act in God's name, exercise dominion over the many. This is the polar opposite of what Jesus preached, taught, and acted, coming not to serve, not to be served, but to serve, as he said. This act of war cannot be justified, and any attempt to do so in the name of God expressly violates this commandment against taking the name of God in vain. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. You shall not do any work, you, your son, your daughter, your male or female slave, your livestock, or the alien resident in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, but rested on the seventh day. Therefore, the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and consecrated it. The fact that this illegal bombing, kidnapping of the president of Venezuela, and seizure of the oil industry of another nation happened on Saturday, January 3rd, not only violates the letter of this commandment, but directly contradicts its spirit as honoring human beings' reconnection with God in order better to learn and follow God's will on this Sabbath day. It has desecrated the day that is commanded to be kept holy. Honor your father and mother, so that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. This illegal action dishonors the fathers and mothers who shed blood for the liberty we enjoy in this nation, and their heritage of opposing tyranny, both in establishing the United States and most vividly in defending against nationalist fascism in World War II. It is an expression of authoritarian oligarchy grabbing resources without respect to any previous international agreements or traditions set up by fathers and mothers around the world. And the bombings dishonor fathers and mothers living in the nation of Venezuela, as terror rains from the sky. You shall not murder. And actually, the Hebrew of that commandment reads, translated literally, you no kill. We have seen the video and read the reports of the bombings. At least 80 persons were killed by this illegal action. By our occupation of another sovereign nation, inevitably enforcing our will through deadly force, others will be killed. This violates the clear, simple command not to murder another human being. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or male or female slave, or ox, or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. Each of these last commandments is a variation of stealing another person's spouse, property, reputation, livelihood. The military action against Venezuela inaugurates a longer action of theft of the resources of the governmental leadership in the kidnapping of President Maduro and his wife, of their reputation, of the integrity, and of the sovereignty of another nation, its people, and their right to safety. Furthermore, the president and members of his cabinet in the press conference later that Saturday morning expressly mentioned taking over the oil reserves of Venezuela, the largest in the world, the proceeds of which would go to the United States, who said we would keep it for them. Thus, the accusation stands. This act of violence against Venezuela on January 3rd, 2026 is lawless, violating the persons, United States laws, international laws, and God's will, clearly expressed in the Ten Commandments. This is not the action of a Christian nation. Rather, it is an illegal and immoral act, hurting our human family, our kin, destabilizing international relations, and directly contradicting the loving will of God. We will not be silent anymore. Signed, Reverend Dr. Robert Howard.
Well, thank you, Bob, for reading that. And just as a reminder, you are retired. So I don't think
This
that
is
word
what
means
retired
much to you
people
these
do.
days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
retired just
Um,
means I do the job differently.
yeah. Uh, the famous theologian Karl Barth said, whenever you read scripture, you read the Bible or you read the Bible in one hand and you have the newspaper in the other.
Right.
And that's how you do theology. What you just read and what you wrote is a great example of that, of a way to see the world through the lens of faith.
Bible in one
Um,
hand, news feed in the other.
that's right. Or as kids say now, the Bible in one hand and your FYP in the other. I just learned that that means for you page, FYP.
Oh, good, good, good.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a little slow on that uptake too. But I, I think that what you've done here, I'll let Jim ask any questions that he has about the content about what you wrote. But for me, my initial thoughts and my feelings about this is that this is a great example for us to follow, for us to not just I'm not in favor of writing a strongly worded letter and leaving it at that, right?
Mhm.
But as you said earlier, I don't know if you said that in the beginning of the show or if it was in our pre-show conversation. But writing things down just helps you out. It helps you
Helps you
formulate your
figure it out.
thoughts.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so to sit down with a draft and to come back and reread that draft
Hmm.
kind of helps you shape your thoughts and to shape your
Sure.
feelings around something so that it doesn't become toxic, so that it doesn't
Hmm.
become just it can take the rage that you have and it can get it down into like something that you can hold on to as opposed
Hmm.
to just this rage where you're just grasping for straws and Bob, I could feel in your letter, I could feel the rage.
I was
But it
reading.
wasn't
Go ahead.
it wasn't for it wasn't a rage that was directed at I mean it wasn't I mean yes it's directed at the regime of our government right now, but it's not a you people rage.
Right.
You're holding up the mirror.
What has helped me with that, and I'm glad you brought that up because that is behind this and other things I've written. As you're reading along the Bible, tripping along, and all of a sudden you come across a verse that somebody stuck in since last time you looked at this book,
That's right.
right?
Every time.
Ephesians 4:26. I don't know how many times I've read Ephesians, but 10, 15 years ago, I'm reading through and I tripped on 4:26. Be angry, but do not sin. Do not let the
Yeah.
sun go down on your anger. And I went, whoa, be angry? Didn't Jesus say, if you're angry, you're murdering somebody, all that kind of stuff? Don't be angry. Growing up, Sunday school, no, 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 that kind of thing. And I thought about it because that's what you do when you go, whoa, what? Who put that there? And it occurred to me what the author, maybe Paul, maybe not, is talking about is there are some things worth being angry about for the sake of somebody else.
Right.
Somebody parks in the slot you are turning around to get. You're angry at them. That's because it's inconvenient to me. You did something, cuts you off in traffic. But it's like, don't say anything against my mama.
Yeah.
Be angry but do not sin. That suggested to me there are many, many ways to show your anger. What is suggested is take the energy and the focus of that anger and let it direct you to constructive action on behalf of the person that is harmed by this action.
Mhm.
Be angry, but do not sin. So that's how come activists are out on the street yelling, shouting, blowing whistles, all of that, because they're angry for the sake of the people that are being trampled.
Right.
So that's what prompted these words.
Well, thank you for that, Bob. Jim, your thoughts?
Well, Bob, I'd like to hear uh, us talk about how this letter reflects sort of the soulful response to Scripture, and how, you know, my day job is to be an attorney, and there's a certain way you treat law codes.
Mhm.
Um, and before that, I was a nuclear power plant operator, and there's a certain way that you treat operations manuals. And you don't actually treat operations manuals quite the same way that you treat law codes, but Scripture is neither one of them. And
Yeah,
I think that um, your letter, I don't read your letter as saying, here is a careful point by point. Although, I mean, some of these things that, I mean, what really struck me is the property stuff. Like, this is one of the features of this, which I don't know. I mean, maybe it's almost admirable that he's like he's saying the inside part outside, right? He's just saying
Yeah.
we this is a
mhm,
fight for war to steal, I mean, for oil to
mhm,
steal other
mhm,
people's
mhm,
oil. So that's very interesting about how, like, whatever that is. But I really read your letter as saying this attack, and frankly, the others like it, strike at the core of what it means to be a faithful person. Like,
mhm.
it hurts so deeply because it's ingrained in, you could take, and using the Ten Commandments is great for all of the reasons we talked about, but in a lot of ways, you know, you could take the creation story, right? Every human is a child is made in the image of God.
Exactly. Yep.
So to murder children is not, no one shall spill blood of any human. That's like before any laws, right? That's
Mhm.
like the first law. That's so much a law that Cain should have known it even before anybody told him, right? And so I think I like, this is it, uh, there's just heart in this, right? I mean, I think this is a lament that sort of expresses our deep, deep sadness. Is that, am I close on that?
In the context of faith.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, a couple of things. Number one, you mentioned faith. We need, all of us, reminders of our faith tradition, a grounding.
Mhm.
And especially these days, we need accurate reminders because we're getting a cut and paste version of our faith that supports the people in power's um, uh, domination of the people with no power, exploitation, all of that. My vision of scripture, especially the this is taken from Exodus. There's another version of the Ten Commandments in Deuteronomy chapter 5, um, which were given while the Israel was in exile.
Yeah.
I mean, not exile, in the Exodus was in the
Mhm.
wilderness.
It's in the wilderness. Yeah.
Um, anyway, all of those rules and regs, Numbers, Leviticus, Exodus, are part of God trying to fashion a new people, living the way
Mhm.
God thought human beings would flourish. So these aren't do this, don't do that, good to bad. These are laws to help build a human community that is humane, values everybody, values differences, all of that. These Ten Commandments, if you look at them, they are saying, remember whose you are, the one God, and don't go running after other gods and idols that will let you down, that set you against each other. And remember who you are. This is who you are, and don't take advantage of each other. Remember intergenerationally, remember society,
Yeah.
honor and respect boundaries. This is kind of like boundary training, right?
Yeah.
Um, and laws, there's a reason for laws, and that is, why do they put a stop sign up? And why are you
Safety.
supposed to stop at a stop sign? Because something bad happened there, and we want to prevent it from happening. People got harmed. That's the basic underlying motive for any law, any good law. That is
Mhm.
to preserve life, to help people get along, that kind of thing. And so the Ten Commandments, the same thing, to help us develop a humane society where we value each person. And egregious violations of that, like this bombing, like the murder of Renee Good,
Yeah.
highlight
Right.
the can highlight the offense in the eyes of faith. And so this is both trying to highlight, to name the nature of the offense and remind us of the faith that we believe in.
And I think it also shows that faith is calls us to action, right? And
Yes.
faith does move us to, I'm reminded of a couple of holidays, and I'm reminded of, Mother's Day, which was founded as an anti-Civil War.
Hmm.
We won't send our children to go kill your children, like a real intense pacifist thing, which is now turned into get flowers and take your mom out to the Cracker Barrel, right? Like that's the thing. And something that you named for me many years ago was, we're coming up on Martin Luther King Day, which we have moved when it became a holiday. We did it when on his birthday, not on the day he was assassinated. And maybe we should be thinking about Dr. King when he was assassinated for speaking about peace and justice. And continuing to speak even when he knew it was risky. And so I do think that's, I like I said, I think this is a soulful lament, but I think it's also it is it is a call to action. It is a reminder that these words mean something. Like this is we take
Mm.
this stuff seriously and it has impact. And if you read it and you can just go about your daily business like you were before, read it again because that's not what they're there for.
Mm.
Yeah, what he said.
Well, I
Yeah.
believe, the famous quote is from, I believe it's from Vladimir Lenin, I believe, but he said, "There are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks where decades happen." It's felt like one of those weeks where a decade happens
Hmm.
in between our invasion of another country, in between a federal agent taking life into his own hands and causing more anxiety and more anger in our world than what was before. It is good to remind ourselves of all of these things. That not only writing down our thoughts helps us calm down, even though I don't think, Bob, you were going to go out and do anything wild. I don't think, I don't know what that would be for you, but
Not in my
I don't,
DNA.
it's not in your DNA. It's not in mine,
Yeah.
but it helps us to think clearly, to get our thoughts clear, but also that as people of faith who say that we follow a God of love and who follow a God of order, at a God of law, a
Hmm.
God. I'm going to say this one more time. If we say that we follow a God of love who out of chaos creates order through through commandments like the Ten Commandments, through the Beatitudes, um, through the words of Jesus Christ on the cross, that we are called to love our neighbors, even when that becomes increasingly difficult.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yes. Following Christ ain't easy, especially when things seem to be collapsing
That's right.
in a number of
We should,
ways.
yeah.
One, you can give in to despair. The world's going to H in a handbasket, and there's nothing I can do. I'm bagging it. Or you can get angry and knock a few heads, or you can say, what is this faith? What good is it? Seems to me that you can rediscover the roots of authentic faith that grew up in an empire that hurt people and was trying to form humane people that cared for people and actually did
Mm,
and
mm,
can turn people to do the right thing by
mm.
conversation, by example, by sometimes opposition, and being clear about why we're opposing.
That's right.
And there's lots of things, right? Not everybody is a foot, not everybody is a hand, right? Like there's lots of
Right.
ways to do these
Hmm.
things. And I was at a meeting of Corazon AZ, which is a group that does a lot of this work, and they were talking about, their work is more in support and soft power and education. There are others who are disruptors,
Hmm.
and there are others who are raising voices that are sort of, and Corazon is doing some of that, of sort of advocacy and sort of getting out. And
Hmm.
I just looked, Poor People's Campaign, poorpeoplescampaign.org is an easy place to go, and you can find out about poorpeoplescampaign.org, and you can search Arizona and find out about Arizona. I think Jay already said it, but it's chaliceaz.substack. That's where you can find that you can find our Substack to get more stuff. I mentioned Corazon AC. I mean, you know, and I will tell you something too. Like sometimes you got to go to a protest because it matters. That people track that. People notice how many people are at the protest. That's why the president lies about the numbers, is because it matters
Correct.
how many people are there. But also sometimes you go to a protest and it's good to see, hey, you know what? I'm not the only one screaming at my
Yep.
computer screen,
Yep.
right? And then sometimes maybe you do write something. Maybe you do, I file lawsuits, right? I'm suing over
Yeah.
314 right now, which is a racist law. And so that's something I'm going to do this week. We at Chalice are putting together a program to talk about homelessness and sort of look at homelessness from different angles, which PS is one of the consequences of the wickedness of this regime. And it's like sort of dumping a bunch of poor people out of their houses because, they're losing a job because of bad economics and all these kind of things. So I guess one thing I want to make sure that we recognize is, one, we pitched Poor People's Campaign because I know that that's a good organization that does great things, and we pitch work at Chalice. But the other thing is that we cannot. You were right, Bob. Falling to, you cannot give in to despair. Giving in to despair is death. It is. It is. It is. It's It's, what is it? What did the Ephesians say? Be angry, but don't sin. I
Hmm.
think giving into despair is not helpful. I think it's maybe a sin. In any case, it's not good. Don't do it. So I
Yeah.
just want to
How
make
is
sure
it
that we,
helping anybody?
yeah, it's that coziness of like the sort of like just, I can just curl up in a little ball and put my head down and see if it goes away. Yeah, that's it's
And
not
sometimes it's just feeling
not good.
totally powerless.
Yeah.
What can I
Yes.
do? There is nothing I
Mm.
can do that's too big. And that's where find a community, because that's where you find the support
Amen.
network that can help you walk through that. But also
Mhm.
you get a vision of I'm not alone and this may have legs.
Yeah. We're social animals, and
Mhm.
and there's a grieving part of this,
Hmm.
and you need other people around when you grieve. So
Well, our time is just about up, but I want to close with a word of hope that I hear out of today. And it's one of the things that I love about serving Chalice is that I'm looking at two people right now who, and having a conversation with two people right now who both in their personal lives. Bob, you used to be a pastor, so like this kind of was your world, but like
Hmm.
you continue to do it. in your personal life who take their faith into their professional work because of the love that they not only have for this world, but their love for God. And I'm so grateful for the way that you all live your faith, Jim, through your being an attorney and doing the work that you do, as opposed to being an attorney and chasing ambulances. Which you'd probably be really good at that too and make tons and tons of money. But you choose to serve people. And so I'm really grateful for that because in these times of despair, these times of lack of hope, these times of not seeing the goodness in our neighbors, I'm looking at two folks right now who I see pure goodness in. And so I'm really thankful to God for your presence at Chalice Christian Church.
Well, and Jay, I'm grateful for having somebody like you had the audacity as a millennial to go into the clergy. So uh,
Yes.
you're also you are in the quixotic business that we are as well, and so
That's right.
I'm grateful for you, and I'm impressed. So
Well, thanks.
And
Will
we
y'all be
thrive
well?
under your leadership.
I hope. Well, be well. God loves y'all, and so do I. Peace.
peace.